Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm bringing you a video discussion on 5 anime that I feel need sequels. It's not exactly uncommon for anime to come and go without getting a true conclusion, and this video is here to highlight just a few of the anime out there that I wish to see completed. Now, this list is not ranked in any way. These are just 5 shows that I felt like talking about at the current moment. And I'd like to do more videos on this topic in the future, so you're more than welcome to leave any anime that you feel need continuations in the comments below. Just because it isn't on this particular list doesn't mean I don't also want to see it get a sequel. With that all out of the way, let's get started. Number 1, Accel World. I talked about this recently in my 10-minute anime thoughts on the series, so I won't spend too much time on this one. If you want to hear further thoughts on Accel World, that video will be linked in the description. Accel World receives a lot of flack for where it chooses to stop, as the main plot was put aside in the second half of the show to focus on something else. And while I personally really enjoyed this arc, I totally understand not feeling satisfied with the many unresolved story elements that were still left hanging. I don't like it either, truthfully, and have long wished for a second season to follow up on what the show established and bring focus back towards the Kings of Pure Color. But with the existence of Accel World Infinite Burst, a movie that took place past where the light novels were at the time and just completely skipped over everything the anime didn't cover, I feel like a sequel isn't the most likely. After all, why even make Infinite Burst in the first place if there was an intention to make a proper second season at some point? But alas, I still hold out hope that eventually this show that I love and its characters will get revisited in a more meaningful manner than just the poor excuse for a film that is Infinite Burst. Number 2. Black Lagoon. Now, Black Lagoon might seem like a strange inclusion on this list, given it's a series that mostly goes without an overarching plot. It's a show that mostly just strings together multiple different story arcs that are smaller, with the characters changing over the course of them. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more of that, of course, but why does this series need a sequel? Well, we only have to look towards the 5-episode OVA arc, Roberta's Blood Trail, to see why. And specifically, we need to look towards its ending. So, if you want to avoid spoilers on Roberta's Blood Trail, you can skip ahead to the timestamp listed in the description. Roberta's Blood Trail gives our main character, Rock, a goal. It gives him something to achieve that wasn't present in the show prior. By the end, he now wants to take down Roanapur, after his gambit of moving into the darkness pretty much failed him. And this is what demands that more Black Lagoon be made, so that we can actually see Rock work towards achieving this end, whether it works out successfully for him or not. Now, the manga for Black Lagoon is rather infamous for being on hiatus, and I do not believe, though correct me if I'm wrong, that enough material even exists right now to make another season, let alone finish off the story. And because of that, who knows how long we're going to have to wait for a continuation of Black Lagoon. And even if the manga does one day conclude, we don't really know if Madhouse will even elect to adapt any more of it. There aren't any particularly well-known sequels that come out of Madhouse after all. There are a few, but they do tend to have that reputation for making one season and then stopping. Now, at least in the case of Black Lagoon, they did give it 2 seasons and an OVA series already. So I'd like to think that that shows that the passion is there to make more. So maybe someday we'll get to see what you want, Rock. But only time will tell. Number 3, Spice and Wolf. Spice and Wolf might as well be the poster child for anime in need of sequels at this point. I mean, fans have been crying out for a 3rd season ever since the second one ended back in 2009. And said second season ended somewhat awkwardly, albeit in an okay spot as like a temporary stopping point, just not a stopping point for the whole series. The main goals for our leads, Lawrence and Holo, are not resolved, even if progress has been made on the romantic front, and the light novels continue on past this point for quite a while, and said light novels have since ended, causing many to fear that without a need to promote that source material, the third season will never come to be. And while that is certainly a reasonable concern, as a number of anime seem to just not get continuations because there's no need to promote the source material, there are a lot of anime out there that have gotten continuations or reboots recently, even with their source materials long since done. So I don't think that's necessarily the nail in the coffin here, nor are even the 11 years that have elapsed since season 2 ended, as some anime have had longer breaks between their seasons. So I don't really think those are necessarily the issues here. Instead, I think the issue is the sheer amount of unadapted material, as I believe only 4 or 5 of the 17 light novel volumes were actually adapted, meaning unless much of the remaining volumes are skipped over, which would certainly be an option, it would take around 6 seasons at the same pace of the others to cover everything. Despite this, I actually do have some hope. You see, there exists a studio called Shuka, formed from former Brainspace employees who are best known for taking old Brainspace shows like Dorarara and Natsume's Book of Friends and continuing them. Brainspace did do season 2 of Spice and Wolf, so I'd like to think that Shuka may one day consider revisiting the series themselves. It's not a bright glimmer of hope necessarily, but it's something I want to believe in, especially if we ever want to see these travelers reach their final destination. Number 4, Space Brothers. Many people probably haven't heard of this series, let alone watched it, and despite being a fantastic show, it's really not hard to see why. Space Brothers is an adaptation of a still ongoing source material. A1 Pictures made 99 episodes, a prequel movie, and a weird planetarium episode, don't worry about it, from 2012 to 2014, but unfortunately caught up to the source material and stopped making the show. Naturally, Space Brothers is still incomplete, even after effectively 100 episodes. And honestly, I could see the story going for another 100 with how much still needs to be resolved in the plot. And while it stops at a perfectly fine spot for the end of a season, it's not at all a fine spot for the end of a series. And given its length, I'm really not surprised most people don't bother with the series. It's already a major investment, and it's one without a complete reward, given that after 100 episodes, there's still all these unresolved plot points, which is a shame because people miss out on a really great show because of it, but I really can't blame them for it. And I felt the same way before giving the show a shot a year ago. But now, I still think there's a good shot A1 will pick the show back up once the source material eventually ends. They already spent 2 years on the series, so I would imagine they too want to see it completed once they actually think it's possible to do that. Space Brothers is a truly endearing story about never giving up on your dreams, no matter how unrealistic they may seem. And therefore, I won't give up on wanting to see Space Brothers land safely. Number 5, Full Metal Panic. Full Metal Panic. This series has had quite the interesting adaptation history. 4 seasons already exist for this franchise, with 3 different studios working on them over nearly 2 decades. Season 1 was done by Gonzo back in 2002, then seasons 2 and 3 were handled by Kyoto Animation very early on in their existence, in 2003 and 2005, respectively. And after an OVA in 2006, nothing new came for the series until 2018, when Zebek produced the 4th and most recent season. It's quite the production history, isn't it? This fourth season was something most fans never expected to see until it finally got announced, especially with there being a 13-year gap between it and season 3. And yet it happened. But alas, the story still isn't done, even with 4 seasons. Now, Xebec had intended to adapt the rest of the story, but ran into production troubles. The 4th season's television run suffered from many animation issues that had to be fixed afterwards, and the studio would ultimately go bankrupt before being absorbed into Sunrise not too long after season 4 ended. Which is really sad because, as I understand it, only one more 12 to 13 episode season would be enough to finish off the story. We're so close to reaching the end, and there might still be hope. Obviously, the folks at Xebec, who presumably went to work at Sunrise after, had a great deal of passion for Full Metal Panic, and truly wanted to see the story to its end. Now, if that passion is still burning, maybe we'll see them be able to make that final 5th season they wanted to through Sunrise, which would end up being Full Metal Panic's 4th studio if it worked out that way, funnily enough, which would only add to its production history and all the twists and turns that come with it. Time will tell if this theory is correct or not, but I'd like to think that as long as the drive to make more Full Metal Panic is out there, it will eventually get the ending it's needed. I just hope we won't have to wait another 13 years to finally see it. And there you have it, 5 anime that need sequels. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below and subscribe for more content like this. And remember, if there are any other anime out there that you want to see get a new season, please leave them in the comments below. Maybe it'll even feature on the follow-up to this discussion. Until then, take care, and I'll see you next time.